Coisa.
I'm Melanie Kirkbride, co-founder of The Soft Road. Thank you, COISA, for inviting The Soft Road to make a contribution to this Rising Together online series. I'm particularly drawn by the idea that we rise together from these unprecedented times. Rise not at the expense of another, and rise not leaving anyone else behind. And yet, how do we rise to this challenge when at the moment, almost everyone I'm speaking to in our practice is grappling with uncertainty, higher degrees of anxiety than normal, and even feeling a little helpless? I'm here to talk today about the power of choice. And interestingly, choice, when many of our day-to-day choices have been severely limited, those smaller choices or the inner choices that we make on a day-by-day basis, this is our opportunity to become more conscious of those choices, and in so doing, to actually restore and empower us to feel that we can make an impact. Those choices that we make about our mindset and our attitudes towards things can affect our behaviours and our experience of the day-to-day. Let me give you some examples. Remember, that which we place our attention on, we get more of. Think about that, even in a small way, that says, I decide to buy a red car. Often we walk around then and we see lots of red cars. Now, in the seriousness of the situation that we're in today, the more that we focus on what's missing, what's wrong, and the anxiety about the future, we tend to get more of that. That which we place our attention on, we get more of. Resist the temptation to speculate. Who amongst us doesn't think about what will happen next? When will this be over? How will this change? All of this speculation is a waste of our energy, and it draws us away from the opportunity to rise up and be creative and think about the opportunities presented on a day-by-day basis. How do we stay in present time and resist the temptation to speculate? It's a mental discipline. When we find ourselves drawn into speculation, we pull ourselves back, smile inwardly, and attend to something that's happening right here today. Stop attending to the news. This may sound radical, and it's a big ask. And I'm not sitting here on any pedestal holier than thou. During the last 8 weeks, I began well, and I knew that attending to the news was not doing me any favours whatsoever. I've long since, many years ago, ceased watching the news on TV, but I had carefully selected some websites that would enable me to keep up to date with what was going on. And I was rationing this maybe to once a day. And then gradually over time, this crept in to become an almost compulsive, taking a look at the headlines to see if there was going to be any news about what's going to happen next. When might the restrictions be lifted? What was going on in other countries? How might this lead me? And what I noticed happens from direct personal experience is the more I looked, the more agitated I became, the more frustrated I became, and at times the more anxious I became. And as that happened, I started to fall into that hole of that kind of lockdown black pit that says, where is this leading? What's going to happen next? I caught myself, and I have taken a complete break from looking at the news online. and I'm the better for it. If something is occurring that is of sufficient importance, there are opportunities for me to receive that information. I'm not disconnected from the world. But what I'm not doing is clicking on headlines that give the latest theory and speculation around what's going on right now. I am taking positive steps to remain in the present, looking at the opportunities for attentive practices. For those who have a meditation practice of any kind, now is not the time to let it slip away. A regular meditation practice will enable our nervous system to settle, and it gives us inward time. At a physical level, attentive practices that keep us in our bodies, so some yoga, walking, maybe swimming, anything that keeps us in our body but doesn't tempt us to over-exercise. Be careful now that we don't bully ourselves with over-exercising to try and distract us. It's not helpful. If we have a garden, spending time outside in the garden is very helpful. The fact, certainly in Britain, that we have needed to cater for all our meals, there's been no takeaway, no restaurants for 8-9 weeks now, has for many of us put us very closely back in touch with the sheer act of cooking and being in our kitchens. This is helpful to keep us in present moment time. And so we can rise together by making conscious choices around where we put our attention, what we take in, how we speak. So the more we talk about how frustrated and anxious we are, the more anxious and frustrated we become. Reading something that is not the newspaper, but reading maybe a story or different materials that will actually give us a respite from speculating and attending to what is happening outside that we can actually not make a material difference on. We make a material difference to how we feel by what we think and by our attitudes. And I'll begin, I'll end by sharing with you a sort of old fable that couldn't be more relevant for us now. If you're sitting somewhere now where it is safe for you and feels appropriate for you, maybe to close your eyes, do that. Close your eyes and just listen. Listen while I tell you a story. An old Cherokee was teaching his grandson about life. "A fight is going on inside me," he said to the boy. "It is a terrible fight, and it's between two wolves. One is full of fear, anger, sorrow, regret, greed, self-pity, guilt, resentment, lies, and ego." He continued, "The other is full of love, hope, humility, kindness, peace, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith. The same fight is going on inside you and inside every other person too." The grandson thought about it for a minute and then asked his grandfather, "Which wolf will win?" The old Cherokee simply replied, "The one you feed." Let's rise together. Thank you.